Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're doing some Nurse Burn test hands. So I'm really excited to you guys because this is actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Gloomba. And this deck is a really interesting deck that uses your bad reaction to Samochi and Nurse Reficule to turn any card that's going to give your opponent's life points into a burn card, which is really awesome for this deck to be able to do and a super effective way to win. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like getting your name description in a single video, getting a signed card to the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single one to our patron along with test hands. And definitely give Gloomba some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's go ahead and give the deck a quick shuffle, and then we're going to go ahead and pile shuffle of the deck and see what we can do. This deck is a really interesting deck with all the different burn cards that we're playing in here. You guys are going to see some really classic cards like Magic Cylinders, and if you guys would like to see the full deck profile, it is always down in the description down below. I'm really excited to show you guys this deck because it's really interesting, because if you draw 4 certain cards in this deck, you can actually win pretty much right off the bat. Your opponent will get to draw a card when you pass over to them, and then you'll just chain all sorts of different effects, and then you'll just immediately win, which is really cool. So now that we have the deck shuffled up, which you guys know that is dad rule number 1, that we got to pile shuffle so we don't brick, we're going to go ahead and give the deck a quick shuffle and see what we can do, because this deck is really good. So let's go ahead and see what we can draw into for our first test hand. We're going to draw into a copy of Blazing Mirror Force, which is a really good card, especially since we're just going to basically put a copy of Nurse Reficule on the field, or no monsters at all, to be able to do the last little bit of burn damage that we need. We're going to draw into a copy of Secret Barrel, a copy of Nurse Reficule, Trap Trick, and a copy of Banishment of the Dark Lord. So this card is a really good card to be able to basically search out our copies of Nurse Reficule. So this card is a very handy card, but we can also search out our copies of Dark Lord of Shell with this card, just in case we need it. So we can go ahead and activate the copy of the Banishment of the Dark Lords. It's okay if it gets Ash Blossomed, because we're basically going to be able to already have the Nurse Reficule in the hand, so it's totally fine. I'm probably actually going to search out the copy of the Dark Lord of Shell from my deck to my hand, because I have all sorts of different plays that I can actually pull off with my other cards. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle up the deck and see what else we can do. So basically at this point, you're just going to normal summon out your copy of your Nurse Reficule, keep the copy of a shell in your hand, set 3, and pass over to the opponent. Now once you pass over to the opponent, they're going to go into their turn, and you're going to immediately activate the effect of your Secret Barrel. Secret Barrel is very good because it has the ability to do 1200 points of damage to your opponent, because they're going to draw 5 cards to begin with, and then draw a 6th card. This does 1200 points of damage for each card, or it does 200 points of damage for each card in your opponent's hand and in your opponent's side of the field. So usually they're going to take 1200 points off of this card right off the bat, which is going to be pretty good. Now then they're going to go into the rest of their turn, and you're going to go ahead and activate the effect of your Blazing Mirror Force when they attack into you, and depending on the amount of damage that they put on board, you only really have to do about 4000 points of damage with the copy of the Blazing Mirror Force to be able to pretty much win right here, because you have the effect of Blazing Mirror Force that when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you destroy as many attack position monsters your opponent controls as possible, and then you take damage equal to half the combined original attack of those monsters destroyed by this effect, and then inflict damage to your opponent equal to the damage you took. So if you do 4000 points of damage with this card, you're immediately going to basically win, because at this point you've done 12 and then 4, and then you can activate the, or 5 actually, at that point, and then you can activate the copy of Trap Trick to be able to banish any of our cards that we need, like a copy of Gift Card, and then set a copy of Gift Card to our side of the field, and then we pretty much win, which is going to be really awesome. I really like the Blazing Mirror Force in here because it gives you that added protection that this deck needs, with also doing a little bit of burn damage. So at this point, you can just activate the copy of Gift Card, and you pretty much win, because you've done 3k, and then you've done 1200, which we can just say is 1000, which is 4000 here, and then this card can do around 4000 as well. On average, when I play with this deck, this card does a lot of damage. Sometimes it does more, sometimes it does less. You kind of just got to watch it so you don't actually just immediately lose if they put 16,000 on board. But basically with these 3 cards, you pretty much won with the copy of Nurse Reficule. So let's go ahead and go into the next test hand and see what we can do for the next one. We're going to go ahead and shuffle up the deck and see what we can pull off, because this deck is really fun. I really love the way that it plays, because basically you're just going to throw a bunch of burn cards at the opponent until you win, which is really hilarious. So let's go ahead and shuffle up the deck and see what we can do for the next one. So we're going to go ahead and draw into a copy of Secret Barrel again, a copy of Banishment of the Dark Lords, Trap Trick, Magic Cylinder, and a copy of Bad Reaction to Samochi. This is a really decent hand, actually, because you have multiple ways to actually do damage to your opponent, just like you did before. And it makes it a little bit easier with the Magic Cylinders, because at this point, they just have to put a monster on the field that can attack into your copy of Nurse Reficule. So we're going to go ahead and activate the effect of our Banishment of the Dark Lords to be able to grab from our deck to our hand our copy of our Nurse Reficule, which is going to help us out a lot to be able to just grab that card. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and normal summon out the copy of Nurse Reficule to guarantee that they're going to have to summon a monster with at least 1500 or more attack to get through this card, set our 4 cards, and then pass over to the opponent. And what we're going to do is we're going to activate the effect of keep the effect of the Bad Reaction to Samochi face down, because it adds a little bit of pressure to the opponent. We have multiple cards. If they do attack into us, we have the Magic Cylinders. If we have the copy of Trap Trick, that can basically do 3000 points of burn damage, and we have the Secret Barrel that can do around 1200, which is not going to get us a complete game win, but it's going to put us very close that if we draw into anything that's going to get us a little bit of burn damage, we're pretty much going to win at this point. So you can just use the copy of Gift Card with the copy of our Trap Trick, shuffle up the deck, and then once we do, always use this during the main phase too, by the way, unless they're going to destroy the Nurse Reficule. That's very important to be able to do, because you want to be able to activate all the other traps. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and draw for turn. If we draw anything that does any burn damage, we win, which we're going to draw into a copy of Secret Barrel, and we've pretty much won at this point, because our opponent's going to have some cards on their field and in their hand. And we're basically going to flip the copy of Secret Barrel to win the game, which is really good. So you have all this burn damage that you're actually able to pull off. I really like the Magic Cylinders in here because it gives the deck a little bit of added protection that it needs, because your copy of Nurse Reficule is a little bit vulnerable, which is a little bad for the deck. But at the same time, the copy of Magic Cylinders gives you that added protection along with the copies of Blazing Mirror Force. So let's go ahead and shuffle up the deck again and see what we can pull off for another test hand, because as you guys can see, the deck is very consistent at getting to your copy of Reficule, which is really, really nice, because you have to get to that card or Bad Reaction to Samochi as quickly as possible so you can do all that burn damage. It's very important to get to one of those cards. So let's go ahead and see what we can do for the next one. So we're going to draw into a copy of Nurse Reficule, a copy of Card of Demise this time, which is really good, a copy of Pot of Duality, Gift Card, and a Bad Reaction to Samochi. So at this point, if we can get into 2 more burn cards, we win. So we have the effect of the Card of Demise that lets us draw our 3 cards in our hand until we have draw 3 cards in the hand, which is really good. And then also for the rest of the turn, after Scar resolves, your opponent takes no damage. And then during the end phase of this turn, you send your entire hand to the graveyard, and you can only activate 1 of this card per turn, and you cannot special summon monsters the turn you activate this effect, which is fine, because we're just going to normal summon out Nurse Reficule. Now at this point, we can go ahead and set, or actually you can keep these in your hand because you want to be able to activate the Pot of Duality. But we're going to shuffle up the deck really quick just to make sure what we are going to get, because we're going to be able to get 3 off the top of the deck and then look at them, which we actually are going to get a 2 Paths of Destiny, or the Paths of Destiny, which is going to get us 5,000 burn damage with these 2. And at this point, if we get into another 3,000 damage, we instantly win the game pretty much, because we're just going to be able to flip them at the very beginning of our opponent's turn and we win. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle up the deck and see what else we can get. So we're going to set all 3 of these to our side of the field, and we're going to go ahead and activate the copy of Card of Demise. Now, hopefully, at this point, we're going to draw into 1 of our 3,000 burn cards or a 2 of our 2,000 burn cards. We'll be totally fine if we get that. Let's see what we get. We're actually going to draw into a copy of Banishment, Duality, and Extravagance, which is not exactly what we need, but we do have the copy of the Banishment that we can use to be able to get into some more plays. But let me show you guys what would happen if we did draw into that copy of our burn card. Let's go ahead and try that one more time and see if we can get something really, really crazy. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle up the deck and see what we can do. That's something that with this deck that you got to keep in mind, is you will sometimes run into hands where you will run a little bit short on the damage that you need to immediately end the game, but that's okay, because we have the Blazing Mirror Forces, we have Magic Cylinders, we have stuff like that. So we're going to draw into a Pot of Duality, Ring of Destruction, and Blazing Mirror Force. So if our opponent summons anything out on the field that has 3,000 attack, we pretty much instantly win with the copy of the Ring of Destruction. But let me show you guys what would happen if we draw into a copy of Gift Card instead, or try and guess. So And say that we draw into a copy of gift card, a copy of a shell, and banishment. We're going to go ahead and set to our side of the field the copy of gift card. These will just go to the graveyard. We're not going to use the effects of those cards and pass over to the opponent. So this is the really good combo that you have in the deck, that we're going to be able to use Nurse Refuge's effect to its maximum potential, where you're going to flip the copy of, your opponent's going to draw, you're going to be able to flip gift card, then you're going to be able to flip your copies of Path of Destiny, and then chain your copy of your next cards down to where you're going to do a perfect 8,000 points of damage. We're going to do 3,000 with this, 3,000 with this, and the effect of the Paths of Destiny while Nurse Refugee is on the field equals that your opponent is always going to take 2,000 points of damage regardless of the coin flip. They're going to take 8,000 points of damage, giving you an instant win, which is what I was going to show you guys. This is really good, especially because you can basically make this combo really, really easily, especially if you have other cards lined up with it. Like, as long as you draw into something like a copy of Try and Guess or Gift Card, like if you draw in a combination of these three cards, you pretty much have game, which is really cool. The copy of Ring of Destruction can kind of interchange out, where you can actually use this card first, pop their first normal summon or a monster that has 2,000 attack points that they summon on their side of the field. Let the chain resolve, because you can't activate this card and then completely end the duel. You can't reduce their life points to 0. So let them summon out something that has 2,000 attack points, and then use these two with Nurse Refugee to do the last a little bit of damage to be able to win the game, which is really, really nice for this deck. I really like the way that this deck is just like super easy to just pull off those combos. So let's go ahead and shuffle up the deck again and see what we can do. The other really nice thing is the games with this deck are super quick. So if you like to play a really quick game of Yu-Gi-Oh, this is like the deck for you. So let's go ahead and see what we can do. So we're going to go ahead and draw into a copy of Pot of Duality, a copy of Pot of Extravagance, a copy of Lith Lady of Lament, a copy of Magic Cylinders, and a Dark Lord a Shell. So this is a very interesting hand because we don't have any burn cards. We have basically kind of sorta like 3 cards that we're going to be able to get. So let's go ahead and activate the copy of Extravagance, and we're going to go ahead and get rid of 3 cards, or be able to get rid of 6 cards from the extra deck. So it doesn't matter what we banish because we're never touching the extra deck anyway, so we're just going to go ahead and get rid of those cards. I literally could have banished the whole extra deck and it wouldn't have mattered, because I'm not summoning an access code in this deck. I don't even have the normal summons or the special summons in this deck to be able to summon that. And we're going to go ahead and draw 2. We're going to draw into a bad reaction of Smochi and a Nurse Refugee. Now, the really neat thing about Nurse Refugee is it used to be called Fallen One instead of Dark Lord. So they retrained it in Destiny Soldier along with Marie, the Fallen One, to both be Dark Lords, which were the two, I believe, only 2 Dark Lords that were actually changed into Dark Lords after their original printing. So you can actually use these two, not this turn because you activated the copy of Extravagance, but if you ever draw into a hand where you have multiples of Refugee, you can actually use the Shell to get you a draw 2, which is why we played the copy of Shell in the deck, because Refugee is a Dark Lord now, which is really, really neat. So at this point, you can use the effect of the Lith if you want to use the copy of Lith, or you can use the effect of the Pot of Duality just to guarantee that you might get a trap card with this card's effect. So we're going to go ahead and draw 3, which is a bad reaction to Smochi, the Secret Barrel, and a gift card, which is what we wanted. So we're grabbing that copy of gift card and we're going to shuffle up the deck again, which is going to be really, really good. Now you can normal summon out that copy of Lith if you want to normal summon out that copy of Lith, because you do have the copy of bad reaction to Smochi. So you don't really need to normal summon out the copy of the Nurse Refugee. As long as you have one of these 2, you're usually gonna be okay. So now we're going to reveal 3 copies of Try and Guess, and once you reveal all 3 copies of Try and Guess, you're basically just going to add one of those from your deck to your hand. If you did draw into a Try and Guess instead of the copy of Gift Card, you could grab the copy of Gift Card instead of Try and Guess. It kind of depends on what you have in your hand. But we're just going to grab one of these cards to our hand and shuffle the rest back into the deck. Now, once we shuffle the rest back into the deck, we're then going to set 4 and pass over to the opponent, which we do have a lot of damage on board, especially if we can do 2,000 points of damage to them with the copy of Magic Cylinder. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and flip over the copy of our bad reaction to Smochi right here. And then after that, we can let them go ahead, or we can just let them go ahead first, let them attack into us with all this back row with a monster that has 2,000 or more attack points, flip the Magic Cylinders to do 2,000 points of damage to them, and then activate the copy of bad reaction to Smochi, and then also activate the copies of Try and Guess and Gift Card, and you win. right off the bat. That's really cool. You do have to take one attack that has 2,000 attack points, but usually if you have a clear board, your opponent's probably going to summon something like that that's going to get them that really good play. Now, the really neat thing about this is let's say we draw into the next turn, we can actually use these two monsters since we have the Ashell and the copy of the Nurse Reficule, and we already have the Samochi on the field. We can go ahead and draw 2 additional cards, which is going to get us into a copy of Banishment and a copy of Secret Barrel, which we can then use the copy of the Banishment to be able to search out our copy of Nurse Reficule because she is a Dark Lord. And then we already have our plays set up all over again, which is really, really nice. So that's pretty much it for that test stand. Let's go ahead and do another one and see what we can pull off, because this deck, as you guys can see, is really interesting. I really like the cards like Magic Cylinder in this build. If you don't like those cards, you can change them out for cards like Mystic Mine if you want to change them out for those cards. That is an option for you guys if you want to. I just found with Mystic Mine, I kept running into scenarios where I wasn't drawing into enough burn cards, and so I changed out the copies of Mystic Mines for the copy of Magic Cylinders, and it's helped me out a lot in playtesting, do just that little bit extra of burn damage that I might need to be able to go in for games. So let's go ahead and see what we can do for the next test hand, because as you guys can see, this deck is really consistent in doing a lot of burn damage every single turn. So let's go ahead and see what we can draw. So we're going to draw into a copy of Pot of Duality, a copy of the Paths of Destiny, Nurse Reficule, Banishment, and a copy of Try and Guess. So at this point, if we can get into a copy of our gift card or another copy of Try and Guess, we win. So let's go ahead and activate the copy of our Banishment to be able to go ahead and get that card out of the way, to be able to grab from the deck a copy of Ashell. I'm going to grab Ashell just in case I do hit a copy of the other card, the bad reaction to Samochi. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle up the deck. And once we do, we're going to go ahead and activate the effect of Pot of Duality to reveal the top 3 off of our deck, which is going to be Gift Card, and we've won the game right off the bat. That's really cool. This is actually the really interesting combo that you can actually pull off, and it's super consistent to actually get, and it's really neat, because what you do is you basically just put Nurse Reficule on the field, and with these 3 cards comboed, you pretty much win, because they're going to guarantee take all that damage. So what we're going to do is just set these 3 to our field. The Ashell is going to be in the hand, pass over to the opponent, they draw 1 card, and then once they draw a card, you flip the Try and Guess, you flip the copy of the Path of Destiny, and you flip the gift card, and you offer the handshake, because that's it. They've lost. They've taken 8,000 points of damage, because 3 and 3 is 6, plus 2 is 8, and that's game right there with just these 3 trap cards, plus your copy of Nurse Reficule or Bad Reaction to Samochi. This could be Bad Reaction to Samochi. This could be another copy of Gift Card. This could be a copy of Gift Card. This could be a copy of Try and Guess. It doesn't matter. As long as you can do 8,000 right here, you're totally fine, and you're pretty much going to win every single game like this. So let's go ahead and do one more test hand and see what we can do for one more test hand. As you guys can see, the deck is really, really good, and it's really fun to play. I really like this build because of the copies of Bad Reaction to Samochi and the Nurse Reficule being just so easy to get to in this deck, especially with the copy of Ashell. Like, I just play 1 Ashell in this deck, which you guys would like to check out the deck profile. It is down in the description below, but the copy of Ashell helps out, and just in case you get copies of Banishment in the hand that you don't need, or the copies of Nurse Reficule, like multiple copies of her, it turns it into a draw 2, where usually you would just brick with multiple copies in the hand, which is why I play that 1 copy of Ashell in my build. So now that we've got the deck shuffled, let's go ahead and cut the deck and see what we can do and see what we can pull off. So we're going to go ahead and draw into a copy of Nurse Reficule. That's really good. A copy of Ashell, a copy of, see right there, that's what I was talking about. Another copy of Nurse Reficule, a Bad Reaction to Samochi, and a copy of Lith. This is not looking good. Okay, so we have the copy of Lith that we can go ahead and normal summon because we don't need both of those Reficules. You can use the copy of Lith right here and then guarantee that you're going to get a trap card. You can go ahead and reveal 3 copies of your gift card. And then go ahead and grab exactly what you need. We're going to reveal 3 copies of it. There you go. There's 1, and then there's 2 right there. We can go ahead and reveal all 3 of those cards, shuffle up the deck, and then grab one of them to the hand. And then at this point, you can use the effect of the shell to be able to discard, which we've already normal summoned, to be able to draw 2, which is going to be another copy of gift card and another copy of Lith, which is totally fine. We're going to go ahead and set these 3 face down and do every bit of burn damage that we need, except for the last one. Now, the really interesting thing is with Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer running around in the format, this might be enough to actually win. Because if your opponent does go into an Anaconda and a Scythe combo, then if they make Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer by paying the 2,000 life points for Anaconda, you can go, haha, gotcha. And then you can flip over the copy of the bad reaction to Samochi first, and then let it resolve, flip over the copy of gift cards, and then you win, because they paid 2,000 life points, and they win. If they pay any sort of life points against you, you pretty much win at that point, because all you have to do is do 2,000, and Anaconda does 2,000. So you still win with that hand. So let's go ahead and see what you draw into. Ring of Destruction's okay. You can't pop anything that's low. That's going to go ahead and just end the game with it, which is a little bit unfortunate, but you do have the Lith that's going to be able to get you into another copy of a trap card. So you still do have game, which is really, really cool. So I think that's going to do it for this one, guys. Definitely tell me what you think of this deck down in the comments down below. The really interesting thing about this deck is you can basically run any burn traps that you want in this build, which is what's really cool. I really like that about this deck. And if you guys would like to check out the deck profile, it is down in the description down below. And I'm really glad that Gloomba actually suggested this one, because I've never actually done test hands for Nurse Burn on the channel or profiled Nurse Burn. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.